Are we live? Are we live? Are we live? Live? Are we live? Are we live? Let me know if we're live because I want to talk about, you guessed it, the New York Football Giants. But I'm not going to do it to talk to myself because that's just not what I want to do. Right? Who wants to waste their time talking to themselves? I do that enough during the day. So let me know if I'm live so that I can talk to you guys about the New York Giants finishing up the season. I want to talk about a couple of things. And then we'll let people join in. And make some calls. You are live, 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 live. Everyone's saying we're live. All right, what's going on, everybody? Hope everyone's having a good day. Victor coming in hot. Tim McDonald's the director of player personnel. Does the scouting department report to him? What exactly does he do? What does Chris Mayer do? Supposedly Chris Mayer doesn't do much anymore, but like Tim McDonald is very important, which is not ideal. Been doing these live streams. I want to actually talk about the live streams themselves. And if you want to join in on the show, I'm going to drop a link in the chat here in a couple seconds. Make sure you have your camera on, all that good stuff. But I do want to talk about these streams. So the reason why I've been doing these at the end of the year is because, there's two videos that I do every week with the podcast in season. One is the film review, which I love doing the film review. It's kind of necessary to do the film review because I got to go through all that film anyway, slow and detailed, and it makes the mailbag important. I mean, it really just forms my opinions on the team and players without just looking at stats or just watching the game on Sunday and that being it. So I'll always do the film review, even though that in a season like this, it does terrible numbers, right? The one we did put out yesterday, 2,000 views, right? Or this morning, I'm not expecting anything more than that. I'm not being like, why isn't this doing well? It's because the team's the way we want to watch film on a team that thing. If the team does well, those do well. But the reason why I've been doing these live streams is that the film review and the offensive line report are sold. And they're sold to DraftKings. We're going to read an ad here in a little bit. So need to fill that ad slot. So I've been doing live streams because I'll be honest, I'm not doing the offensive line report every single week in a season like this. Before it was sold, it would, 2021, we only did one towards the end of the year. And I'll be honest, and I'll want to know what your guys' opinion is on this. I've got a little burnt out on the offensive line report. It's always fun in the beginning of the season, but it just, for me, it gets a little bit repetitive. And then if like Andrew Thomas goes down, then it's just breaking down bad football. And it's how many different ways for 17 games can I talk about the offensive line? I've done some stuff where we look at the run game of it. So I'm thinking for next year and the live streams do well, right? People like listening, State of the Giants and stuff. So I'm thinking about next year. Again, I'm going to keep the film review, but doing live streams and more like focused videos, right? Like I did the why the Giants should fire Joe Shane video. Hopefully I'm not making any videos like that, but like more focused videos that maybe I've thought about through a few weeks. Now here I'll say this: week one, I want to do an offensive line report, right? If the Giants draft a rookie offensive lineman, right, we'll break down his first game individually, and then maybe we'll wait 3 weeks, put together 3 games of week 2 through 4 of film, and do an individual breakdown on that player. Look at sophomore, do individual player film breakdowns, just doing different types of videos, things that can like pique my interest and get me excited and maybe do them up a little bit more. But I just doing the offensive line report 17 weeks, and I've been doing it now for 5 years. It's just I've kind of gotten bored and burnt, and it takes a lot of work, right? And I don't get the film until Monday afternoon, so I'm usually doing it through Monday Night Football and not being able to watch Monday Night Football, and then waking up and then having to do the film review. So then the film review takes all day Tuesday, and then you have to get through the mailbag. So just thinking a way to work smarter, not harder. Still going to work harder, but just work a little bit smarter. And again, like week one, I'll do the offensive line report. We'll do things about talking through the run game. And even when I say this, I'm like, man, it sucked to abandon. Like some of the run game stuff I've done this year, I think have been a lot of fun. And you look at that stuff a little more detailed when you're doing that. But I think the offensive line report was fun early because that's what I played. I played offensive line, right? That was my way to set myself apart a little bit. And I've learned so much more about the offensive line since I started that, but I've also just learned a lot about football in general, right? Like these film reviews that I do, I couldn't have done them in 2020, you know? Like I just didn't have the understanding of the concepts and different types of defenses. I just have learned a lot over the last, 3, 4, 5 years or whatever it is. And I just think I'm going to put my energy towards more of that. And I like doing the live streams. We used to do voicemails, and then it was just like people were just leaving in 2-minute voicemails, giving their opinion. And the mailbag pod I think is really good. So we got rid of the voicemail. So when it's not something that I want to focus in on, just jump on a live stream, do some more live stream stuff. Whether that's having guests, we don't interview people in season, even though we have this year because it's been so bad, and you guys don't want to hear our opinion on the same thing over and over again. So you want to hear a fresh perspective from Dan Duggan or Ryan Dunleavy or whoever. But if they are winning, right, you still want to hear from guests on this platform. Have them on for a live stream, so that helps us out a little bit. So I'm going to put the link for to join in the chat. Again, you got to have your camera and stuff ready. And again, basically, like you got 5 minutes. Did I already put the link in there? So you got 5 minutes on. I already put the link in there. I don't want to. It's more about hitting a subject. Lane, I did miss you. How much is the cap being wasted on Jones this free agency? Is it still a massive reason why we may be bad again next year? Shane has to go. So it's going to count $20 million against the cap, but they still have $60 million to work with. They have plenty of money to do the things that they should want to do. Hopefully they're not. This isn't some spend type of free agency for Joe Shane trying to save his job. And I will say this. We gave our predictions on the podcast that's coming out. Tony Award coming out as well tomorrow. I'm pretty confident that Shane's coming back. So now I'm at the point where I want Dable back because I do not want Shane getting a restart with a new head coach and basically guaranteeing him 2 years. Just keep both of them, and then they're on like a 1 year kind of trial run where if it looks decent, you get another year. If it looks good, you obviously get another year. And if it looks bad, you get gone. So I got some people in. Tim is in the private chat saying that he doesn't have his camera. My camera is broken, but I would still like to join and have a question. All right, Tim. Maybe this is Tim in Florida. So we got to be quick since you don't have the camera because I can't trust you. You're talking giant. What's going on?
Hey, Bob. Big fan. I got a question, especially since we're looking to not be early on in the draft this year. I was wondering if you've looked at maybe a guy like Dylan Gabriel, and what do you think of him?
It's funny. I've been a Dylan Gabriel hater because our old editor, Julian, is like friends with him going back to UCF. I don't have much of opinion on the quarterbacks other than Cam and Shador. And even those guys, I don't have my full opinion on. I've watched them. I've watched a little bit of Milroe and I see the talent, but I also see I don't know why he honestly declared for the draft. So I don't have an opinion on Dylan Gabriel. Now I will say this, Tim. Usually my philosophy is do not draft quarterbacks outside the first round because you have the guys who are worthy of the first round pick. And even if you don't have a first round grade on a player, if he's like a second rounder, then he usually goes in the first round. And I've went back through, I went like 6 or 7 years for a mailbag last year, and they just never work out when they're not first rounders. When they're first rounders, they don't work out at a high clip, but they at least work out. Like, I don't know if I went back 6 years or whatever. The only second rounder to work out is Jalen Hurts. And the only day 3 to work out is Brock Purdy. And then there's day 3 draft picks I think that ended up being decent investments, but they're not like their franchise. Like Sam Howell got a year as a starter and then traded him. Josh Dobbs is an okay day 3 pick. And there was one other one who was not a starter, but I was just like, he's a decent motherfucker, dude. I knew this was you. I was like, this sounds like Julie.
You were buzzing too. There's some great analysis there.
I know, dude. I was like, this kind of sounds like Julian. What's going on, dude?
Not much. Check them out though. Some great tape. Lamar Jackson.
I didn't watch the game yesterday. What happened?
They just got steamrolled completely.
I really only saw Ohio State offense, and that's why I texted you because I called him a drug addict, and he said he doesn't even drink. Maybe he should start because this is fucking brutal to watch.
that was a tough game to be a part of.
Tim with no camera and this sounding like Julian. I can't believe I didn't.
You literally said Tim from Florida, and then I right off the rip go Dylan Gabriel, and it didn't raise any alarms.
I was like, this does sound like Julian, but how's Scott Frost?
Good. I mean, it's early. I haven't interacted with him too much, but it's good to get some energy in the building for sure. A bunch of the new team is fired up about it, and we're almost done getting a full staff right now. It's just down there today, kind of meeting a bunch of the new guys, but it's been fun. New juice for sure.
For people who don't realize, this Julian's our old editor, producer, intern, or whatever the title was. What was I going to ask you? Where are you on all the Shane Dable stuff? Like, I don't know how much you're tuned into.
Fire both of them.
Yeah.
Fire
are you like really anti-Shane right now?
I'm just anti. This regime is just going to be fighting for their job, and that's a recipe for disaster. I mean, obviously, neither of them have done anything to prove to anybody that they should stay. I want to like both of them because early on, to me, it felt like Shane had good process, but they haven't done anything. I mean, we've sucked. This is probably the worst roster I've seen, and I've seen some terrible Giants rosters. But like you go into next year with both of them, and it's like they're just going to be fighting for their job. It sucks.
I feel like process and like analytics and stuff was stuff like that was like really hot like 6-7 years ago, and it got like pushed back against, like the fourth down stuff. And now and it's like, oh well, even yes, it's about process. You don't do this, you don't do that type of stuff. And now everyone's caught up with it, where it's like, okay, well, everyone's got pretty good process for the most part. You obviously have the New York Jets and shit like that. Like, we all understand these basic principles of going for it on fourth down by 14, go for 2. Like, we understand that. And now he caught up. I think if it didn't happen in like football analysis, where 6 years ago I was like, fuck EPA, what are you even talking about? Now it's like, everyone knows what EPA is now. Talk about the game. But again, I don't think the process is even great. But we just compared it to Dave Gettleman, where it's like, all right, well, where it's like, even no matter what you thought about him as a talent evaluator or whatever, it was like, this guy's just kind of like a clown. And like every press conference is like a goofball, and there's no rhyme and reason for a lot of stuff. It's just, I like this guy, I want this guy, and no thought of cost management or anything that goes with it. But yeah, I think Shane's done a terrible job. This roster stinks, and if they fire Brian Dable, like, this is going to be his resume after 3 years: failed head coach, no quarterback, and just a flat out bad roster. And your best players on the team are not brought in by you, and the only certified really good players that you've brought in, one was the 6th overall pick, and one you traded for and paid $30 million per year. Like, that's like, I'm just not impressed with you at all.
Yeah. And I mean, early on this season, it was pretty clear that Dave's lost the locker room. I'm honestly of the belief that he should be fired more than Shane. Just from what players say post-game and interviews and stuff, is terrible. But
he hasn't lost them to where
just him.
He hasn't lost them to where they hate him, but there is like a little bit of like, because he doesn't like get on them or anything.
Yeah.
But there is like I don't believe in his message, a little tuned out. But like,
they're clearly not fighting for him. And I mean, that happens when you're losing crazy games. But you look at a team like the Panthers, and it's like they have life and they suck, and they were dead in the water like middle of the season, and now they're back.
Yeah, it's just like you said. It's just like they're going to be fighting for their job, and being desperate is not a good look on any regime.
I'm not trying to have a guy that is looking to trade the farm to go up to 1 and draft Shedeur, because like that's his only chance of being here 2 years from now.
I want to flesh out this take. I was talking with somebody on the phone today. As people who really don't trust them, I don't. Even when I say this, it's like, it's stupid, doesn't make sense. Part of me, but here, I'll say this: 5% of me is like, I hope they fucking win on Sunday, and you have the 8th pick. Now what the hell are you gonna do? Now tell me your big way to fix this team besides drafting the savior quarterback. Because then like, what is the reasoning behind it? Because they're either gonna have to trade up a ton for a quarterback, a ton to go from 8 to 1, or not take a quarterback. And then like that's been the whole argument for them is like, well, we haven't taken our quarterback. We haven't taken our quarterback. John Mayer wants to let them take their quarterback because of his influence on the Daniel Jones contract. And so it's like, all right, what's your plan for success now? And I just don't think it's any part of it. It's just I don't believe.
And I'm fine with trading up for a quarterback. Like, yeah, I know we had one in the bag and lost it, but like if we had a new GM and he was that confident in Shador or Cam and he wanted to trade up, then like, yeah, go for it. That's his guy. Like, if he has the confidence, sure. But if Shane does that, I have no confidence that that's the right move. I'm completely thinking that he's just fighting for his life.
Exactly. And I'll never be, even with a brand new GM, I'll never be like well, if he believes it, I back him, right? Like I'll have my opinion on those quarterbacks of whether they're worth trading up for or not. But like you need a fresh perspective. You need someone not desperate making that decision. And 4-1 is very doable. 8-1 is like 8-1. You're thinking about like if like John Mayer has to think about like letting them make that trade, right? And that's just never in a good spot to be when your owner has to sign has to think about not letting you make a trade.
8-1 feels not possible at all because there's going to be people like teams in front of us that also want to trade up and they just have more to offer.
Right. All right. You got anything else? Are you in Orlando?
I am.
Nice.
Yeah. Report day is Monday, and we got a game versus Kansas on Sunday that I'll be working at.
Wait, what?
But I'm trying to actually, funny enough, yesterday I submitted a credential request and I put John Boy under the name to shoot the national championship. Got denied. So I'm really trying to shoot that.
For what?
Just shoot
the national championship, you said?
Yeah.
Where is it this year?
I don't even know. I just applied. I was ready to go regardless.
That stinks.
Yeah.
Are you going to Alabama?
I don't know yet. I think I'll for sure go to the combine. I really want to go to the Senior Bowl. I think I'll know that in like a week or two.
Right.
You should go to the Hula Bowl. Is
that in Hawaii?
No, it's here. It's at UCF.
When is it though?
This week coming up is all of the practices, and like there's a good amount of coaches and stuff that show up. Baldy's always here, and then the game is Saturday.
Is there any players that go to the league?
Isaiah Pacheco. That's the only one I know off the top of my head.
Dude, if it's right down the street. Now, if the Giants are getting ready to fire, if they fire Brian Dable, I got to be like on call and ready for shit. But, I mean, that's an hour away. I could just go watch the practices, even if I don't know shit about them.
Just look up the roster. Go to their Instagram. Go through the names if there's anybody that you know.
Right.
It's basically it's underneath the Shrine Bowl. It's like Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl, Hula Bowl.
Yeah, I wish the Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl didn't overlap because it'd be nice to go to that. Yeah. All right, I'm going to let you go. Your microphone's terrible. I'll talk to you when I talk to you. All right, I didn't mean to bring you on so quickly, but here you are. You're talking Giants. What's going on, dude?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing?
Good. I recognize the Twitter name, so I let you in without the camera.
Appreciate it. Yeah, man. I've been a Patreon member since 21, so appreciate y'all. My question to you is that have you guys been looking at the free agents and anybody that outside of the Giants has caught your eye in terms of like maybe value or someone that would be a good fit?
So I can actually pull up my notes because we do that way too early free agency preview after the draft every year. What I've looked at the most is wide receiver just to see what Darius Slayton would be going up against. So like I got a good understanding of the wide receiver market. And now the nice thing about doing the draft too is like, oh, I remember that guy with some of this stuff. With the offensive line, I mean, Trey Smith, obviously from the Chiefs, the offensive lineman, Creed Humphrey, I don't think they'll let him go. They might have even extended him. I think Tevin Jenkins, if the Bears decide to not bring him back, is somebody that you take a shot on. And then there's some other, lower price guys that you could bring in. Jedrick Wills could be like the perfect swing tackle, but he might get a starting job somewhere. And then something is like if they were to spend some big money, would Kenny Clark from the Packers, and this document is from July, so guys could have gotten extensions. I didn't even see it, but like a guy like Kenny Clark to come in here and put next to Dexter Lawrence, like if there's one position that I'd love to, like, where you said, hey, we're signing top of the market or damn near it, defensive tackle would be that for me, because that feels a huge need, and now you've created like a serious strength too. So, but in reality, I think the Giants have invested in guard and stuff in the draft and interior offensive line. It'd be nice to just sign the best guy in free agency and be like, let's get a strength at this position, and not like a average player like John Runyon or a nice stopgap like Greg Van Roten, just to get that stud.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just crazy to think that Shane had a top 7 pick, a 3rd round pick, a 2nd round pick, a bunch of late day 3 picks, and 3 free agent signings for the offensive line. It's still in this state right now, and that we still want another one. I mean,
yeah, and listen, the I will say with Andrew, like, the offensive line has been a lot better this year. With Andrew Thomas, I think it was legitimately good pass blocking offensive line, and then a below average run game group. Without him, though, has it been good? No, but it's probably been like middle of the pack, barely below average. Like, that's one thing I'd say is, like, think about how bad it got last year, and it's just, even with, it just hasn't been that. Jermaine Illuminor hasn't been this good left tackle, but he was good at right tackle. He's been better at the left tackle spot. Evan Neal, despite being really bad, has not been the wreck your game plan type bad. And then the interior guys haven't been awesome, but they haven't been these guys who miss assignments and are going the wrong way, which was happening last year at an alarming rate, where it's just like guys just don't even know where they're supposed to be going. And you're not seeing that. JMS has a good understanding, and Runyon and Greg Van Roten have been good vets who, at bare minimum, know where they're supposed to be.
Yeah. And I guess one last quick one, if I could sneak it in. Between Jason Pinnock and Azeez Ojulari, which one do you think will be harder to replace if we were to get a free agent or a day 3 pick?
Probably Azeez. Pinnock is I want Pinnock back on a cheap contract, but I want him to be the 3rd safety. I think that's what his role is, because he has that versatility. But he's not a playmaker in coverage at all. He's just not. He doesn't have the instincts to play a deep safety and be an advantage there. But we've seen when you put him down near the line of scrimmage, he's physical, he's fast, he's athletic, he can make a play, and he's at least smart enough where you can throw like some disguised coverage. So I think having a third safety like that is valuable, because when you get those 3 safety looks and have those guys be physical against the run and use them as pass rushers here or there, I can do that. So I want Pinnock back. He's not going to cost a lot of money regardless. And then Azeez is tough. I have no idea what Azeez is going to garner, because he's injury prone. He's so injury prone. And so, but will he go somewhere where he maybe has a better chance of being the 2? I don't know. I'd like Azeez back, but it'd have to be cheap. And I just don't think Azeez is getting this contract that people probably thought he was after the Steelers game. But I'd say Azeez, because I have no clue what Azeez is going to garner, where Pinnock is getting $3 million at most per year.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you, man. I've been listening since 2020, Patreon since 21. Y'all got me through some tough times, and I'm excited for the future, at least with this podcast, not the team.
Yeah. Off-season pods start next week, so I'm excited for that, dude. Appreciate you jumping on.
Yes, sir.
All right, before we have on our next guy, we got Kevin in the background. I got Kevin, Andy, Juicy Whiteman, Thomas, and Keith. So, but before that, people are like, what do you mean, Bobby? Before? What the hell are you talking about? I'm going to tell you what I'm talking about. I'm going to talk to you about DraftKings. Grab your favorite team's jersey and some snacks and head to the couch for another Sunday of action-packed football, and get even closer to the action each Sunday with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, all new customers who bet just $5 will bet $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins when you use code WORLD. Stay in on the action and use your $150 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting is not yet available in your state, don't worry. Stop all that worrying you do. You can still join in all the fun with DraftKings Daily Fantasy and have the shot to win cash prizes. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. New customers use promo code WORLD, bet just $5 on any wager, and get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. That's promo code WORLD only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Be glad you did. Also, like I said, we're doing a little more live streams and stuff. Be interested to see. Live makes the subscribers grow, and we want to obviously grow subscribers and bring them. The podcast is the end game with all of our content. It's the thing that it's just the thing that sells. It's an hour long and it's done well. But I like doing the live stream because I feel like it pulls people in. And again, it's just it's more casual, and it's like, all right, let's see what these guys are diving into on a regular basis. But I am excited for the 2025 Talking Giants. Like, it stinks because it should be easy, right? You should just have a solid team, big market, and like, hey, if you're doing your job, doing it well, be easy. We got to get pretty creative, but we got to do some cool things. Training camp's always fun. Got to, go interview Tiki in the WFAN, Boomer and Geo studios. And I think we ended at 25% growth, which is not bad for year 6. I thought the YouTube did a lot better podcast wise, where it kind of took over, close to taking over what the podcast apps usually do. So, all right, going to bring on next we got Kevin. Kevin, that was the name of my 8th grade. We had an imaginary friend that we used to troll our teachers with, and his name was Kevin. What's going on, dude?
Hey, Bobby. What's up, man?
How are you?
Good. 2 thoughts I'd be interested in your reaction to. So the identity that Shane said that he wanted for the team was smart, tough, defendable. And, you can make personnel mistakes. You can make a lot of different types of mistakes. But I think the reason I think they should get rid of him is I just don't see those qualities. And I don't see them in the coaching staff. I don't see them in the player selections. And I guess, I think the argument they're making to Mara is like, behind the scenes, there's a foundation that people don't realize. And I guess is there any indication of that we're doing things that are going to lead to something? Or are we just doing this because it seems bad to not make a change after 3 years? So that's one big thought. And then the other thing that really bothers me, I think on the recent pod, Dunleavy said, like, Dable had to take his 3rd or 4th DC choice and 3rd or 4th special teams coordinator because he has a bad reputation. And man, that is bad. That is really bad. That people are passing us over for other opportunities, either because they don't like him or he has a bad reputation, or because they know the regime's on thin ice. And I guess that's the part that just does not feel fixable to me. Like, I think, I don't think, even if they're retained and say they have a great year and they win like 8 games, which would exceed expectations, I think we're going to, just still have the legacy of those problems. So, just interested in your general thoughts on those 2 ideas.
Yeah, you're with the whole, not a desirable place to be. It's like, you have to win consistently to get that back, and that doesn't feel very near. And now that they don't have the first pick in the draft, that makes things a little more complicated. I agree. I think they're hoping to get lucky, right? And I'm tired of, as a Giants fan, hoping for the outlier, because if this regime ends up working out, it would be an outlier, especially if they fire Brian Dable. But it just would be an outlier for a year 3 GM to have a 3-win team, a bad roster, no quarterback, and possibly find their head coach, and then that turns around. It's an extreme outlier. Now, here's some of the issue within the building. The Giants have had some of their most success with outliers, right? George Young not getting successful for 5 years. Eli Manning taking teams that weren't dominant and going on Super Bowl runs and winning with them. So their glory days are rooted in outliers, right? They won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback, right? That doesn't mean backup quarterback needs to be this huge investment, but they were one of 2 teams ever to win it with a backup quarterback. So they've had successful outliers, which I think makes them a little more prone to give people more chances. But I think in reality, it's just John Mara, and I'm tired of hearing this. Oh, the losing bothers him more than anybody. I don't think it does. I think being uncomfortable bothers him more than anything, and he knows that firing a GM and trying to do that whole hiring cycle again and having him change things in the building is a hassle. It's a hassle. And I think he'd rather just, either fire the head coach and get a 2-year, plan and then do it. But I think they just delay the inevitable. And we're looking for outlier they're looking for outlier results in reality.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the Mara thing. I think there's also it's like he just doesn't want to, admit a mistake in some way. Like I think when they got Shane and Dable, it felt like they got everyone like congratulated them for that. That was like, you know, they had the glow of Josh Allen and the Bills.
It was a good hiring cycle too, right? Like you don't look back and be like, how did they hire these two people? Like
Yeah,
you don't get like that's not a hindsight. Like how did you not see this? Like Josh Azudu not working out, but it didn't work out in reality.
yeah. The one thing that Dunleavy said that perked my ears up was Shane is very attentive to his public perception or something like that.
Very much so.
Remember, I just like as the build up to Dable or Gettleman leaving was growing. Shane was floated, I think, by Peter Schrager on some pod as the next in line. I think he was talking about Shane. He may have been talking about Dable, and there just seemed to be like a pre-existing PR campaign. I mean, I guess that's how it works. Like, there was a good reason to hire him, but it seemed like he knows how to work PR. I wish we could have gotten those Vikings guys. It's easy to say now, but the Vikings guys or Adam Peterson, I guess. Adam Peterson. I mean, sometimes I wish we could still go get Flores. I know that's a pipe dream, but they're probably not going to settle the lawsuit and bring him in.
Yeah. I don't see that happening. But yeah, that's just kind of where they are, and now it's just like, all right, now I've accepted the fact. Not accepted, like, I guess it's okay, but accepted the fact that they're bringing Joe Shane back. And then the question happens with when you make a decision on Dable, like you said, you're either in a situation where you're not a desirable coach to join, it's not a fun spot, or you're trying to figure out which head coach is going to join Joe Shane. And again, that can work out, right? Like the plan for this to start working out is simple in thought. It's you fire Brian Dable, you hire the right head coach, whoever that may be, right? You maybe Shane Steichen gets fired by the Colts and he gets a second go around with the New York Giants, right? I'd like that. I've been critical of Steichen and some of his stuff, but I think if he's learned from his mistakes with the Colts in 2 years, I think he'd be a nice hire. He's a good offensive mind, at least. And Joe Shane just starts drafting well, which is possible. It's very possible for someone to just start drafting good players and or draft the franchise quarterback. But it's possible for anybody to do that. So why not start fresh and get a clean slate and say, these guys have not done a good job. It's time. Like, I'm sorry, it didn't work out. We're going to try something new.
Yeah. Cool, man. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy the pod. We'll see. I'm rooting for them to get fired. I know it's against the odds right now, but
I am too, right? You never know how things can change, but I think at the moment, Shane staying. Dable, I'm not 50-50 because I don't have any like inside information on it. I haven't seen anything to indicate that it's like 75-25, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
It seems like the beat writers are leaning towards him staying.
Which a week ago it was leaning towards him being fired, and now there's sounding like there's an article that came out today that Dable's going to get to be able to plead his case once the season's over on Monday and Tuesday, which I think once you're in that spot, you're probably going to get fired, but I guess we'll see.
That's interesting. I guess. I don't know.
My prediction is Dable's gone, but I'm not surprised if he stays either, though.
All right, cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for jumping on, Kevin. All right, next we got Andy. Andy, you're talking Giants.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing today?
Good. How are you? I feel like we've met before. Have you been at camp or something like that?
Yeah, you got it. We're the Utica Comets guys.
Oh, okay. Andy Haddad.
Yeah.
Okay, now I got you.
Yep.
I was like, I know we meet a lot of people at camp. I was like, you seem very memorable. How's it going, man?
Good. How you doing? Good.
Well, what do we got?
All right. So I got a couple for you. Since I had time to think. So what are your thoughts on the position groups and what group has made the biggest jump so far? And how much of that do you think is the positional coaches?
So you said what position group that I think has made the biggest jump so far?
Yeah.
That's tough because it's not the DBs, obviously. The edge rushers, no. Defensive. I think Dre Patterson's a pretty damn good defensive line coach. I would say that. Yeah. You know what? I like the offensive line coach, Carm Brasillo. Like they don't make mental mistakes on this offensive line. You know, there's a little bit when, you know, if you guys watch the film reviews where it's like that JMS pop out thing, but I thought that was a little bit on the running back. They don't make mental mistakes, and they're not the most talented group, but they haven't just gotten totally dominated. Obviously, run game's a little more about, you know, about just who you individually as a player, but they work well in the run game where even when it's bad, it's not terrible, like set you behind bad, except for the Colts game outside of that big run. I'll say Carm Brasillo. I think he's done a pretty damn good job with this offensive line.
Especially with the makeshift players he's had to deal with and going from.
I mean, he had to play Evan Neal, play Chris Hubbard, Josh. Like he's had to, you know, he's had to deal with some tough shit.
Yeah, 100% agree. So kind of moving along here, with the draft, I had a mailbag question. Thoughts on Will Johnson? Have you gotten to Will Johnson at all?
So we watched him for the way too early draft preview that we do every June. I think he's a fucking damn good player, and I would not be mad at all at drafting him. I haven't watched him this year, right? I saw some people say he might have had a down year or something. I haven't watched him, but he looked like a damn good player last year. And I think he's scheme versatile as well. Damn good player. But I will say this, and I hate to. I've kind of planted my flag a little bit on Abdul Carter, and I got to watch a bunch of other guys before I go all in if they don't get quarterback. But I watch Abdul Carter, and I know it seems like kind of a lazy take because he's the same number, same college, same position change.
True, yeah.
But it's so reminiscent of watching Micah Parsons at Penn State. Where like when I did my Micah Parsons film breakdown out of Penn State, I didn't even put any coverage stuff in there. It was just all moving forward type stuff. I'm like, this guy can fucking move. I was like, I only need to watch coverage. This is the best defensive player in the draft. And Abdul Carter is very reminiscent. You know, I know he's not the biggest, strongest guy in the world, but he has 22 tackles for a loss. So he's disruptive in the run game. At the very least, he's disruptive in the run game. And I think he can hold it pretty well. He seems like the player where I just will if there's any player in this draft where I look back outside of quarterback and say, wish we would have just taken that guy, it's Abdul Carter. Because not only is he what I think looks like a great player, it's at a great player at a position that never hits free agency. If you're an elite, that you're just happy to have for a long time, where corner is one of those like Patrick Surtain, maybe the best corner in the NFL right now. I'm taking Micah Parsons 10 times out of 10 over Patrick Surtain. You know, so I don't think he's just like this Myles Garrett type edge where he could just does everything the picture perfect Madden creative player way. But I just would hate to miss out on a player like that.
Yeah, and especially a guy who lines up not just on the edge, like Penn State utilizes him sometimes.
Oh yeah, dude, he's a chess piece. He's a chess piece. Where it's
like
you like
scheme against
third down, put him on a center. Now you got them double teaming, and you got one like it's just you get the right defensive mind in here with Dexter Lawrence, Abdul Carter. Now I'm feeling a lot better about Brian Burns, Kayvon, third rusher, whatever. We'll see what happens with you. But Kayvon's not changing any decision that I make. I'm feeling pretty damn good about the things they could scheme up. And there's some defensive tackles in this class that maybe get to the second. You know, I did the midseason mock, Derek Harmon out of Oregon.
Yeah.
Nice piece, right? If they don't get quarterback, edge, defensive tackle, round 1, round 2, you'll never hear me complain about that no matter who's on the fucking team. So, but Will Johnson, if they're, you know, he seems like a damn good player. Like, I think he was my favorite player that we did on the way too early draft preview in the summer. We didn't do Carter, but I'm pretty sure he was the guy who I was like, this is the best player I've watched.
All right, and then I got one more. So hypothetically, we're the 4th pick, or somewhere around the 4th, 5th pick, and Travis and the 2 quarterbacks go off the board. I know we're talking a little far in advance, but who do you got on the clock? Who are you taking?
And Travis and the 2 quarterbacks?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to go off of what I just said. I'm going Abdul Carter. Now, again, I got to. There's other guys I got to watch. I probably watched 15 to 20 guys in total, and not like detailed watches either. But I'm probably going Abdul Carter there.
So now, if you did that, are you taking any of the quarterbacks in free agency now, or what's your
So-
goal for QB?
That's where I just wish the Giants could have got a quarterback last year. So because it sucks to not have the answer there. If there's anyone in free agency that I think makes the most sense, it's not going out and paying Sam Darnold or paying this guy. It's trying to find the next guy that can get you through a year, and I think that's Justin Fields because he's talented. He has the legs. He had success using legs. I think he's. I looked back on this the other day. I think he's like 9-6 in his last 15 starts. So you can win with him, and you can use that skill set, and it would be cheap, relatively. So. That's the one that makes sense, but it's really a bad year for that. Like Brissett's not inspiring any confidence. I know everyone loves Jameis. My theory is everybody that's not a fan of the team that Jameis is currently on loves Jameis. If he's the quarterback for your team, you're probably not. Backup, fine, but like the bridge starter, not a good spot to be in.
Yeah, because I saw you were talking a little earlier about quarterbacks in second round plus. So like
it doesn't work out.
Really sticks out to you, like Jackson Dart or
Dart. I watched a little bit in the summer, and I don't see it. I saw that Florida game that kind of threw me off a little bit. Milroe. So I'm basically like don't take quarterbacks outside of round one, unless you got elite talent traits that we're willing to work with, and that would be Jalen Milroe, right? Where it's like this is not this expectation that you're the franchise quarterback. This is we're going to bring you in, we're going to let you sit, we're going to work with you. If it works out, sick. If not, we're going to try and trade you for a 5th or 6th round pick in 2 years or something like that. So that's probably where I'd be at.
Okay. All
right. Thank you, Andy. Hope all is well. Your brother's a fan too, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell him I said hello.
All right, will do.
All right, we got Juicy White Man. What's going on, Juicy John?
Hey, Bobby, how's it going?
What's going on, dude? How are you? Good to finally put a face to the Twitter account.
Right. It also helps that we have the same last name. So.
Yep.
But no, I've been a fan since 2020, so I've been here quite a while. Wish I could say the record since I've been a fan has been great, but after this season, it feels like 2022 was a fever dream.
2020 feels like a heaven year where it's like we're 6-10. Like that was a fun year compared to what we've had to deal with. But
I think even in 2020, Colin Cowherd was gaslighting himself into thinking Daniel Jones was a good quarterback.
Oh, people love Joe Judge. By the way, they went on that 3-game winning streak. Joe Judge. There was articles written by national writers about like, is this going to change hiring cycles of going back towards, the strict, CEO type head coaches, and then it went completely bad in 2021. Obviously,
I mean, unless you talk about North Carolina, but I don't really think that counts.
Right. Which, speaking of which, actually, no, I won't show. But I was doing the Joe Judge to UCF thing.
Oh yeah.
A birdie told me that got to Joe Judge's agent, who went to Joe Judge and was like, "There's some guy that's like trying to get you to UCF. Have you heard anything?" And like his name's Bobby Skinner. I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's we know who that is." But what do we got?
I mean, for me, I haven't watched a whole lot of film yet. Most of the film I watch is the O-line review. Dude, I love though is Will Campbell. Like, if we weren't so depleted like everywhere, like we are every year, I would 100% take Will Campbell wherever we end up.
So I watched him. Another guy I watched for the way tour. Has he changed his stance at all, or does it still look like he's standing up straight?
He still looks like he's standing up straight, but it's not like it's not the same feel or vibe that I get with how Evan Neal is really, really top heavy for no reason.
Yeah, he doesn't have the Evan Neal issues.
No.
Evan Neal was a great learning thing for me, where it's like, all right, these things fucking matter.
I get the feeling that if he had like if he was baptized in fire, every tackle we have is two times a year against Micah Parsons, every person on the Eagles defensive line, and for some reason every person that Washington decides to pick up off the street who can somehow rush the passer.
And there was another guy, Darnell Wright from Tennessee. Remember a couple years ago? I want to see how his numbers have been. I think he's been pretty good this year. And he had it's kind of a similar where it's like, I kind of hate the way your stance is. I hate the way you get out of it.
But he gets away with it.
But yeah, he's a good player. And I kind of was reminded, I like Will Campbell better than Darnell Wright, but he's worked out. And I'm looking at his, did PFF change their website? I'm trying to see his stats. I don't want to use his grade. I will never ever use a PFF grade, even if I think it's 100% accurate. I just never will. So he's given up. He's been all right. They grade him well, but he's been decent. I'll have to talk to my guy Robert Schmitz, but like that's like something that kind of reminds me of that. And like I said, I like Will Campbell more than I like Darnell Wright just by off of last year's film on itself.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And he seems more athletic than Darnell Wright as well too. So.
If I had a it's a bad comparison, but it feels like a poor man's Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, the Thomas's feet were so quick. That's why I fell in love with him, and those long arms. And Thomas's film was a little sloppy at Georgia, and that's why I loved him because look how sloppy some of this shit is, and look at all the room for improvement. And he's fucking dominating SEC pass rushers every single week. Like if this guy's got the right, if this guy's got the right work ethic, this is who I want. That's why he was my number one in that class, my dream. And was very excited when they got him. And I know I'm going off of a tangent right now. When we talk about rookies and them developing, we need to stop using Andrew Thomas. Look at Andrew Thomas' rookie season. Andrew Thomas by the end of his rookie season was like an above average player. It was the first half, right? So I think if a player's going to turn it around, you'll usually see signs of it. It's not going to be Evan Neal where he's just trash. And it's like, oh, well, hopefully, maybe next year he will be not trash. We're like, well, where have the signs of that been? And we haven't seen them.
Yeah. Because, the worst part, too, is, the 22 campaign. I mean, if you didn't watch the offensive line review, you could almost, be, tempted to believe that, oh, well, he might get better. He's a rookie year. But, it felt like it got worse as time went on.
Agreed. And they hit him a lot earlier in the year, so... Yeah.
Since Brasillo's come in, it hasn't been as bad, but there's still always more than 5 but less than 10 plays where I'm just like, what the hell are you doing?
Exactly. And he makes a lot of mental mistakes too. I think it's something that gets a little overlooked because of the just bad physical plays. But he makes a good. There's one guy who's making mental mistakes. It's Evan Neal. Now they haven't faced some of these blitz heavy, teams, and when they have, he wasn't been in the lineup, but. He's been. I don't watch him and have any it's better than last year, but there's no confidence instilled from the film that I watched.
Last year wasn't a great exactly campaign either. So
last year it was just as it was terrible as well too, and there was improvements made, but still was just really bad. Unfortunately, I just think that top heaviness, lack of balance, and having somewhat slow feet is just a kill shot. And I think it's helped me, right? Because now there's still guys like Charles Cross. We look back and man, Bob, you really didn't want Charles Cross, but you liked Evan Neal. Now I've watched Charles Cross this year, and I don't look at him like that's a player that I wanted at 7th overall. It's a player I want over Evan Neal 10 times out of 10. But I look back and I wish we would have got Garrett Wilson or whoever. Even though I think Charles Cross is an above average offensive tackle in the NFL. But I just think when he plays the elite players, he struggles pretty.
He looks average.
Yeah, he looks average, and he has some really, really bad moments when he's playing average to below average. He's fucking dominant.
Yeah.
But so I'm looking it up. So and he's give up 6 sacks, 5 hits. So kind of similar to Darnell Wright, maybe a little worse pass blocking production. Obviously had one really bad game against Aiden Hutchinson, but I guess he's been solid. I haven't watched him the last month or
but I'm pretty sure Seattle's radio isn't talking about how Evan Neal needs to be shot to the Hudson River. So.
Yeah, exactly. They may look back and say there's other better picks there, but he's not an issue. He's probably one of their top 15 players on that roster.
Yeah, they're not crying about it.
Yeah, exactly. Someone said on the phone. There's a lot of people talking about quarterback options. What do you want for Hendon Hooker? I think the Lions would give him away at this point. That's another thing that worries me about Joe Shane's QB evals, because I liked his QB evals last year. I I could not stand Hendon Hooker. I was like, this is the fakest fucking offense. This guy doesn't make reads. Anytime he does have to make a read, his accuracy suffers. We watched him in training camp for 2 years in a row. It hasn't been anything inspiring. And then the Lions were like, we're just going to bring in Teddy Bridgewater because we don't trust you if Jared Goff goes down. And they have the other quarterback, Sudfeld, I think, is their like actual number 2. But I think they brought in Bridgewater because they probably trust him to play a game more than they do Sudfeld as that backup job.
Like I remember Sudfeld, but only because I feel like I've heard his name for like the last 10 years in the league, and
we had that game in 2020, but
yeah, and it's like, oh yeah, but like I don't like him. I didn't like Hendon Hooker either because I'm an Alabama fan, and I just didn't like Hendon Hooker for obvious reasons. But
right.
Like I'm also the thought. I feel like Jalen Milroe could be better than Cam Ward, but he's an Alabama quarterback, and I'm not exactly gonna hedge my bets on drafting it.
I'm excited to watch Jalen Milroe, like get into
too.
his film and see what it is, but
just not here.
okay, all right. We'll see where he falls. If he falls like the 3rd, then I'm willing to take that swing or something.
If he fell to like San Francisco, I feel like that would be a really cool landing spot.
I saw the Chargers today. I'm like, ooh, that would be kind of nice. Get him with Greg.
Yeah.
But all right, man, I'm going to let you go. I'm going to get to these last 2 people. Appreciate you greatly, man.
Yep. Have a good night.
You too. We got 2 more. We got Thomas and Keith, and then we're going to get out of here and enjoy our Thursday nights. Thomas, what's going on, man?
Chilling. How you, Bobby?
Good. We're getting season's ticking, man. It's kind of weird. Like, we've been talking about these guys' fates for 2 months, and now we're here.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been so glad for a season to end.
Which I feel like I've said that like 3 times in the last 4 years, unfortunately.
But I don't know if you remember from me in the last live you did. I couldn't get on, but you said you saw me back there. The question I had back then, and it kind of makes it null and void because you already said you resign yourself to them keeping Joe Shane. But the question I had back then was, would you give Brandon Brown a shot?
No, because it's guilt by assistant GM is guilt by association for me. Now, when they went through the GM process, we did our best to do as much research as possible. From the outside looking in, it's kind of hard to tell. So then I look at, okay, what has Brandon Brown done that shows me he's going to be a good GM? The only thing I've seen is 3 years being the assistant GM to what I think has been a really bad GM and Joe Shane. Now, could he have disagreed with a lot of those decisions? Sure. But if I'm moving off of Joe Shane, I'm starting fresh where Brandon Brown is still here if they keep Joe Shane. So why, and I think the Giants have made the mistake of firing somebody and just promoting everyone up one spot. So he could be the best GM in the world. I don't know from the outside looking in, but to me, GM candidates are guilt by association. For the good, being tagged with getting Josh Allen like Joe Shane, or the bad, like Brandon Brown being tagged with 3 years of bad roster building.
Okay. And then the next thing is, I don't see Joe Shane getting desperate and drafting out of desperation because, as you've said a few times, he drafts for need. So me thinking about that says I could see him going back and reaching for Tyrod Taylor to be our quarterback next season.
Tyrod's under contract with the Jets. I don't know if they are gonna. I don't know what they're gonna do. No one knows what the Jets are gonna fucking do. But Tyrod Taylor he doesn't like this regime because people got mad at me last year. But when Tyrod Taylor got back healthy and they're like, we're gonna keep starting Tommy DeVito, and this is before the Packers game where he actually played Tommy DeVito. I was like, this is crazy. Like this guy's clearly better than Tommy DeVito. Like like you signed him. It's disrespectful not just to Tyrod Taylor, but the other guys in the locker room to play a lesser player. Like Tommy DeVito's not going anywhere. It was a nice little run. Like put Tyrod Taylor in, and they didn't for some reason. And then 3 weeks later they end up going to him. So Tyrod was not happy at all about that. And they can obviously give him a big contract, and that can heal all wounds. But I don't think Tyrod is looking to hitch his wagon to Joe Shane and Brian Dable.
I guess to close it out, then, with you saying all of that, because everything that you've said leaves me no hope for 25. How do you see us being better in 25 if we're in the same, excuse my French, but we're in the same shit boat?
I agree. And that's why I think, that's why I think they need a new GM. They need a fresh start, a new vision to build this roster up. And like you said, to not have that desperation that I need quarterback or bust or I'm out here. So, and like you said, like this is, I said this on the mailbag pod that we put out yesterday. And this is unfortunate. People don't like to admit this. Getting quarterback is a little bit about luck. It's about right place, right time. If the Giants won 3 games last year, guess what? We have our quarterback. But the year where we have the worst record in the NFL, there's other three more teams that have 3 wins, and we have the strongest strength of schedule. Like, that's bad luck to me. So like it's a little bit about luck. Nobody wants to admit that. It's just kind of about right place, right time, and then taking the opportunity when it's there. So I don't have the answer, right? And that's like last year I was a draft Malik Neighbors over McCarthy, Penix, and Nix, and I still stand on that until those guys prove me wrong. But something we said last year is like, I understand why people want those guys, even if they're not the best guys in the world, because the answer is not clear at all. So I hate to not have like this clear, like this should be the path of quarterback. Because the answer is you kind of got to get a little bit lucky. Like if they have this record last year, they have the quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's done. They take one of those 3 quarterbacks, it's over. They win 3 games. Like people say, oh, the Giants didn't tank the right way. They have the worst record in the NFL. Like I said, there's just 3 other teams, and they have the strongest strength of schedule of those 4 teams.
But these guys being competitive players, I don't really understand as a competitor and as an athlete, how do you tank the right way? Because that mind frame won't let you tank.
Oh, I agree. It has to come from the front office benching guys or whatever. But like if you're talking about like next year, Justin Fields is the name I look to. Not going to cost a lot of money. He's athletic, so you can use his legs. He's got good arm talent, so you can do things in the passing game if you simplify it, and then maybe develop him a little bit and becomes a better player. But at least you're getting a guy who can win games in the NFL. Like I mentioned, he's 9-6 in his last 15 starts. So, and then you see what happens a year from there, whether some guys fall or someone worth trading up for. It's unfortunate, and that's why it's the hardest thing to do in GMing, because it's not just if I want to build a pass rush, and if I have 3 years and I want to build a pass rush, I can execute that plan. Quarterback, man, it's just they went to the playoffs. They got hired the year that Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett were the top 2 quarterbacks. Then they went to the playoffs and were out of range for those quarterbacks. And then they won 6 games last year and are out of range for the top 3. Now you could make the argument that they should have gotten the other 3, but I disagree with that argument. And then this year they have the worst record in the NFL, and they're probably going to be out of range. So
yeah,
it's just it sucks. It's frustrating, but it kind of is what it is.
Last thing, do you agree with this? I think if both quarterbacks are gone, if Joe Shane is smart, he trades up for Travis Hunter, since Justin Fields is the name out there. Because I think if you put Travis Hunter on the other side of Neighbors with Justin Fields, Dable might be able to do something, even though our offensive line is not elite. We've seen the improvement in our offensive line.
I think you could, but I'm not trading up for Travis Hunter when there's a guy like Abdul Carter out there. If I just had the pick between those 2 players, I think I can be swayed for Travis Hunter. Okay. It'll be interesting to see what teams do with Travis Hunter. Like if in my head I'm like he's a full-time corner and you give him 15 to 20 snaps at wide receiver, but like you said, you could just get him as that wide receiver. I just don't know yet. I think we'll find out more about that. But I'm not taking him. I'm not trading up for him if there's guys like Abdul Carter available for me.
Not even one spot, because I think at number 4, trading up for Travis Hunter at one spot is all it would take.
I'd rather have Abdul Carter than keep that stuff. But if you can do some type of like regular first round trade like they did for Deontay Banks, say Abdul Carter gets off the board, then I can tag a 5th round or something to jump up one spot. But it's also a little harder when you're in the top 10. But Thomas, I'm going to let you go. I want to get to the last person before you get. You got anything else before you go?
Nah, I'm gonna leave it there because you give me enough time.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to finish it off. Appreciate everybody jumping on these streams. Again, I don't know how much we're going to do these in the off season. In the off season, we get more busy than I think we actually. Every year, I'm like, we're going to do all this stuff, and then we just get so busy with other shit. But going to finish off with Keith. Keith, what's going on, dude? You're talking Giants.
Yo, thank you so much for having me. I watch this show a lot. And I really appreciate it.
No, are you moving your microphone or something? You're going in and out.
No, I'm sorry. That's because I'm kind of far. My microphone is my webcam.
Okay, that's better there.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, say something. A big talking point on this show has been culture lately. I feel as somebody who would I think of the GM as a boss, and why would somebody want to get drafted to the New York Giants when it's they don't pay, they didn't give Saquon Barkley big money, they didn't give Xavier McKinney big money, and also with Dave Gettleman guys like Julian Love, even Darius Slayton, he got treated awful coming in, and they're still not really featuring him in the offense that much. That's my biggest thing on Shane and Dable. Critique is that they don't really they were very quick to get rid of I miss Blake Martinez Pokemon card thing, besides that part of it. But yeah, I don't understand why they even Logan Ryan,
yeah,
Ben
I'm
Bredesen.
I'm gonna have to cut you off. Your mic's really bad, but I got the gist of what you're asking, and then I'll answer it. I'm gonna mute your mic because I'm hearing myself in it, but you can stay here. In reality, it doesn't make a difference if they want to be drafted here or not, because you could draft. You can make an argument that Malik Neighbors may have not wanted to be drafted here, but guess what? They did, and he's playing really well, and you get it. And hopefully, they do start paying the players that are worth it. And I know Shane, I think, can be a strong negotiator, despite the fact that he gave Daniel Jones that money. It can piss off agents. I think there's a lot of agents that don't like Joe Shane. Now that can work for your better, right? Because then you don't trade guys for nothing. You get Leonard Williams for a second and fifth, but you also may let Julian Love go over $2 million or Xavier McKinney go or whatever. So there is that, but you also don't want to just cave to guys, wishes every time. You want to have hard line stances on certain things. But at the end of the day, you need to keep talent on your roster. And there's some guys that are just worth this guy's going to be on my team, right? I said it with Xavier McKinney last year before everything. There's just really no reason for him to not be on this team next year. And you could have still went and traded for Brian Burns and kept Xavier McKinney. So, Keith, I'm going to unmute you if you got anything, any last thing before we go. And then we'll head out.
Thank you very much for having me. What would win you over on Joe Shane and Brian Dable if they were here next year? How many wins, or how would they, what would be your ideal thing, or the minimum for you to want them back?
That's a good question. I actually hope I hope we get that's a good mailbag question, so I can flesh out and give my full thoughts and notes. But off the rip, it'd be this draft class. Not only does it look good for rookie class, Tyler Newman becomes a fucking stud. Drew Phillips is a stud, not just good rookies. Theo Johnson is a certified starting tight end. Neighbors and Tracy are continue to be what they are. And then you either get the quarterback, right? Get the quarterback that you believe in, or you get another strong draft class. Deonte Banks develops a little bit. It really comes down to the drafts, and that was people said because no one was expecting the Giants to win games this year, and it's all right. Well, what do you judge them on? And I'm the draft, their additions. How are their additions panning out? And unfortunately, they haven't panned out very well. But Keith, appreciate you jumping on. I'm gonna
talk the Giants versus the world.
Always appreciate you. All right, that's a stream. I don't know again exactly when we'll do one of these again. The offseason going to get a little hectic. If they keep Brian Dable, not as much, but we will at least be streaming, I don't know, a few weeks from now. But I appreciate you guys. Podcast out in the morning. Tony Award was named. We gave our predictions on everything. And then final segments of the year. Appreciate you guys. Don't know when we'll live stream again. We'll see you when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.